I'm very happy to be here and to be able to connect with you after covering you for more than 4 years.
Indeed. All right, we'll get things started, and hopefully a few more ZAC members will join us. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with the script. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting via virtual means. Participants may access this meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. This meeting will be recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you have been recognized by the chair. We will now confirm attendance of the members. Let's see how we're doing today. Matthew Vronka.
Present.
Ron Foisey.
Present.
Sravan Krishna.
Present.
Khwaja Hassan.
Present.
Okay, those are the ones I knew were going to be present. Arnold Cohen. Stephen Conti. Sudeep Mehti. Jacqueline Crow. Purvi Avlani. And I am Ted Barker-Hook, Chair of the Zoning Advisory Committee. I'm present and I make a quorum. I think we expect one or two others to join us from that group based on emails. Finally, staff, Aniri Patel, the principal planner. I think you said present.
Present.
There we go. All right. The agenda Aniri sent out included looking at meeting minutes, but those didn't come together. So we're going to just take a pass on that and get right to the reason we are here tonight, which is to talk further about the MBTA Communities Act and adjustments that we need to make. I was chatting with Aniri a little bit before you guys signed on, and I think Aniri is going to share with us and any members of the public who are with us today the packet that she mailed out to us. I give you the floor, Aniri.
Okay, I'm going to quickly share the presentation about the options we discuss and what else we can do, and then we can discuss and ask questions from residents if they have any. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I don't see any document yet. There's a document.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Can you see now?
I see MBTA Communities
Perfect,
multifamily
perfect.
overlay zoning.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so here is our option A, which is our current MBTA proposal. I'm just going to rewind quickly. The town approved proposal to have like 3 zones: Walcott Valley, Downtown, and Preserve Subdistrict. Here is the close-up look. I will brief out this proposal. Town approved in November town meeting, went to state. State sent us a letter and gave us a conditional approval as we are not meeting with one of the required MBTA requirement, which is like 50% of contiguous area. So we are here to solve that problem. Here is the table of the current proposal for MBTA zoning. So as per this, you can see that it's 54.6 acres, which we allot as MBTA zoning, and the density and the acreage in this table. moving forward to option B, here is the option we discussed in last ZAC meeting, like maybe add these parcels into MBTA zoning and convert into one big parcel so we can meet our contiguous requirement as well as all the other three, which is like 750 plus units, acres, and what was the other thing? Yep, gross density and the land area. But the main concern raised during that time that this big parcel and the properties near this area, near the Claflin Strait. So we came up with other two options. One is like adding this area and make a one parcel with the downtown and Walcott. So right now this is like a 13 parcels we can add and make a one district MBTA to meet our requirement. So as per this, if we go with this option, adding this 13 parcels, it's coming up to total contiguous area around 28.6 acres, and total MBTA overlaid area around 51.5. So based upon that, we have to have 25.75 acres contiguous area, and we are meeting the requirement. And it's going to increase the unit capacity based upon we're gonna add the parcels, we're not removing anything. This is one of the option. Second option, option D and option E, is like keeping everything as it is, and option E is like just add near Walcott Street, which we discussed in last meeting. So most of the property, if we go with adding just this or option D, those are in business district and residential A zoning district. And this all the downtown property do have town water and sewer. That was one of the question committee asked. So I checked all the parcels. They have town water and sewer. So if we compare option D and option E, so it's pretty similar if we go just with adding like a strip on Walcott Street, or go with option D with adding three parcels from A Street and Walcott Street. So there's not a major difference in this. So if we go with option D, it's 21 acres, with that combining downtown and Walcott Valley district, and the total MBTA overlay will come around 56.12. So based upon that, we need 28.06 acres. And if we go with just adding a strip here, that will come up around 32.71, as we are just removing three parcels from option D. So there is not a huge difference. I recommend both committee to add parcel rather than removing anything on what we have approved already. That's just my recommendation.
Great.
Anyone, if you have any question, please let me know.
So just for clarification, your option C that you put up, that removed CVS and the fire station.
That's
So
correct.
that would have necessitated additional properties to connect Walcott and the downtown district in order to get back to the number we needed to get to. But if we keep the CVS and Barber and fire department, those properties there, then
Yeah.
all we really need to do is build a bridge. We
Yes.
don't need to add other properties. Okay.
So, yeah. And I think keeping fire station and the south downtown area, it's useful if we remove those. It's a bigger parcel, and then it will affect in the gross density and unit capacity as well. As the downtown parcels, we trying to like make a gap. They are smaller in the size, as just you said, less than 5,000 square feet. So
So it might impact that.
yeah, then it might impact other requirements.
Right, right.
So just adding on to our current MBT approved zoning is a good option then removing anything from what we already approved.
To the committee members, before I offer some of the work I've done, and thank you, Aneri, and thank you for adding option E because that was new this afternoon.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Before I offer some of the work that I did, does anyone have clarifying questions for Aneri? Just going to pause a little bit. Anybody from the public have clarifying questions for Aneri? No. Okay. So I wonder, Aneri, you and I were talking about this ahead of time. I wonder if you could let me share my screen so that I can kind of manipulate a map a little bit and share some of the work that I did today. And everyone, I haven't done this since teaching during COVID, so I hope that it comes back to me like riding a bike, but we'll see. I need to go to share. I'm going to wait for you to tell me when you think you've given me the power.
Yeah. Maybe you need to click on share option.
I'm clicking now. Oh, I got to send the request.
Yes, and okay. I allowed you.
Great.
So you can share now.
I can share. Share.
Yep,
all right.
We can.
Do you guys all see the zoning map?
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. So what I wanted to do is I went back and I looked at some of the regs for both the MBTA overlay and for downtown business and the neighborhood, trying to remember, we've often said that the downtown business is less permissive, no, is more permissive for dense housing than MBTA. And so I took a look at that to try to remember what things say. And here's what I found. One of the biggest things that jumped out to me, unless I am misreading it, and I encourage anybody to correct me if I'm misreading it, is number one, by right in the downtown district, is this my MB? This is MBTA. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Number one, in the downtown business district, by right, somebody may put in a mixed use building, but not a purely residential building by right. A purely residential building, be it single family or multifamily, is by special permit in the downtown business district. So in some respects, the MBTA communities allows only residential by right. It doesn't require the mixed use, the kind of thing that I think we're getting at Hop Drug with some commercial properties on the ground floor and apartments above. Anything in the downtown business district that we make MBTA communities, and we already have made a bunch of it, does allow for only residential development, not mixed use. I bring that up only because it made me think of the CVS. I have no idea if there's truth, but I heard chatter from my neighbors that there was talk of CVS moving into the commercial across the street. And then I don't know what that land could be. But given that we've zoned it MBTA communities, it is possible that CVS and Marty's could choose to leave that spot. And then that could become residential only housing. And I think that's worth keeping in mind. The other thing, if I'm reading it correctly, is by right in the downtown business district, the minimum lot area is 15,000 square feet. Now, we have a lot of lots that look smaller than that to me. So I don't know if I'm reading that correctly, but it's what I see in 210-20.1A. The following size and setback requirements shall apply in the downtown business district. Minimum lot area, 15,000 square feet. In the MBTA communities, the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. So in that respect, MBTA allows a little bit more chance for development. Aneri, can you tell me if I'm reading our current downtown business correctly in the 15,000?
Yes, that is correct. As per the business, downtown district is 15,000 minimum, and as per MBTA, we approve 5,000 square feet as a minimum lot size.
So that's worth us thinking about. I don't think it means that we've done anything wrong or right, but it's worth reminding ourselves what some of the differences are. With those things in mind, I did some math today, looking at some of the lots that are on our different proposals. Now, this one is not colored in like Anery's was. But right now, in our current MBTA overlay, these lots are already included, right? Oh, wait a minute, I think I'm wrong.
No, you are right.
Oh, no, I am right. These are
Yes.
already included.
Yep.
And up here
Mm-hmm.
is included. So we're talking about building a bridge, and Plan D includes these lots as well.
Yep.
So what I did, and I did not look into setback requirements. I didn't go that deep in the weeds. I simply was looking at what lots are 5,000 square feet or larger, so that by themselves, they could become residentially developed. Does this make sense? I see Matthew kind of nodding, following along. And here's what I found. First of all three of these are in excess of 5,000 square feet.
Yep.
Which means a developer, if they could convince one homeowner in any of those, could by right put in multi-use housing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take a side trip to say really quickly, we also have this balance we're trying to find where on the one hand, we are looking for more attainable housing, more affordable housing, and often, not always, but often multi-family dwellings can provide that. We're also trying to find a way to follow the state's MBTA guidelines without opening ourselves up to massive rapid development. Maybe development happens down the road. So with those things in mind, these three properties here, I assume you can see my little cursor. I measured those, and they're not perfect squares, and I didn't pull out my protractor. I'm kind of guesstimating. This property I have at 6,000 to 8,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
This one I have at 6,400 to 8,300. This one I have at 5,200 to 6,800 square feet. So these give me hesitation. Looking up the road where we do feel the need to build a bridge, going up here, this lot here, I have at less than 3,000 square feet. But it also isn't necessarily needed to build our bridge to the Walcott Valley Apartments. But it is a lot that is plenty less than 5,000 square feet. This one is less than 3,300 square feet. This is about 4,400 square feet. This one is greater. This is 5,600 square feet. And you can see 51 feet by over 100 is going to make it over 5,000 square feet. Can you guys see the quick math I'm doing? As we go up the road, this one here is 47 plus, and it only has 43 feet of frontage. And the MBTA communities law requires 50 feet of frontage. So this one strikes out for MBTAs by itself on at least 2 counts. Continuing up the road, this one is 54 plus. That one is by itself developable. By the way, we looked at these. Every single one of these is by itself more than 5,000 square feet. All of them have plenty of frontage. So, well, this one is barely enough frontage, but they have enough frontage. So some of our worries from last week, I think, are just redoubled when we look at the possibility of this side being developed. And again, this massive section out here was something we discussed before as potentially concerning. If we go across B Street, just to finish what I've done, this lot, by my estimating math, so I didn't really break it down, it's not a perfect square, but I think I multiplied the bigger numbers, so 72 times 68, I got a little less than 4,896 square feet. So that one I think is under 5,000 square feet. This one is 4,400 square feet-ish. And this one looks bigger, but the measurements are identical almost. 63 feet of frontage, 63 feet of frontage, 69 feet across, 70 feet across. This says 54 along the back. And that clearly is at least the same size as this 63. So this one gave me pause when you eyeball it versus what the numbers say. But based on what the numbers say, it's also 4,410 square feet. So if we were to build the bridge, there are, if we throw, sorry, I'm looking at my own notes and then at the map. If we throw these out, we can keep this or throw it out. By itself, it's not buildable. But as we go up the road, I see two properties that have sufficient square footage. Again, I didn't look into setback requirements, so I don't know if they would satisfy that. But there are two lots that have sufficient frontage and sufficient square footage to be by themselves purchased and developed. I am not saying that that's necessarily a strike against this plan, but it's something we ought to be keeping in mind. It's also true, maybe, that if we are only trying to connect to this property, it is possible that all we need is this one. But it's also possible that someone in the state could say, that's absurd. That's not really a connection. And we may need to add these. Again, the numbers I get on these, this is 4,896 square feet. So pretty close to 5,000, but again, I'm estimating. I didn't break it down into whatever shape that quadrilateral is. And these two, according to the numbers on the map, are 4,400 square feet. So none of them by themselves are developable. It would have to take multiple homeowners, property owners to sell to a developer to be able to use those properties. That's the additional work I was doing today while proctoring mid-year exams at my school. I will be quiet now and hear what kind of thoughts that brought up for the committee members. Go ahead, Ron.
That even though they could technically be buildable through the MBTA communities, it still requires somebody going in and acquiring those properties at today's rate of housing. It just doesn't make sound economic sense to think that there's going to be a land rush of people looking to build more multifamily homes there.
I'm not a developer, so I'm not going to say that you're right or wrong. I'm not a developer, but what you say makes sense. Before, I just realized that in Plan D and E, this is also within what Aneri drew. And I didn't tell you that. This one I have at 4,592 square feet, this one, with enough frontage. I don't know that we need that one to build our bridge. All right, so I just because I think I left that one off when I was walking through what I did. Other committee members, do you have thoughts that I jogged or other things that came to your mind? I'm looking. Don't see anybody with a hand up. Aneri, do you have any thought or guess, or is there any chatter over in the land and planning offices over downtown? How, I'm going to use the air quotes, how strong a bridge we need to have to connect these? How broad a bridge? How much overlap here? Do you have any sense? Obviously, we can't submit to the state for their feedback. So
we can ask state with the options. I showed the option to John for his feedback, like the bridge and the one with the both option D and option A. And he said it's okay if we calculating, and the reason for including that A street two parcels on the side, no, not those three,
These
the
two.
one, yes,
Yeah.
to like make it look like a connection rather than just adding like one parcel from the street. That was the purpose, so state don't raise a concern that you just bridge the gap and make
because
it
it
as
looks
one.
more uniform, it looks
Yeah,
more
yeah, that
zoning
was
thoughtful, not avoiding
Mhm.
rules thoughtful. Okay.
Mhm. But if I'm not wrong, John mentioned if we have any questions, we can reach out to them. So we can send not the actual proposal, but we can send like as a draft saying that we came up with this. We're gonna go in front of, I mean, town meeting, annual town meeting. What's your thought? We can try that.
Okay.
Then if committee agree, then I will discuss with John and with the planning board, and then maybe I will send email, or even before that I can do that and prepare the actual sheet and the changes to the bylaw,
Okay.
and then send that to state.
Okay. Before I forget, Aniri, I wonder if you can help me with one other thing that I thought about while doing my work today. I believe, and I stopped looking because I assumed it was going to happen over and over, but I believe every house in this neighborhood is older than 1920 or 30. And a lot of them are about 1900 or even 1800 something. If we were having, if a regular homeowner wanted to buy a home and knock it down or substantially change it, they'd have to go through the historical commission. Would, under MBTA communities bylaw, would they still have to go through historical commission, or is that a waived barrier?
Give me a second. It's maybe they need to go in front of historical commission and ask the question if the board is okay, just like other downtown area
Okay.
parcels.
So for those in the room, I believe I have this right. The historical commission's power is limited. What they are able to do if they decide a home is historically significant and savable, the most they can do is delay destruction for 18 months. They cannot forbid destruction of a home. And sometimes they'll delay destruction for less, sometimes 18 months. There is, and I don't know exactly which property it is, but somewhere over here, you may have noticed that a home has been knocked down and something new is being built. That was one that the historical commission denied initially, and then the owner of the property waited out the 18 months and then went ahead with the demolition. I'm pretty sure I have that, both the regs and the story with that property correct. My wife was on the historical commission when that one was discussed, so I have a little bit of familiarity with it. So another, not barrier, but another braking mechanism, if it's true that the historical commission could delay up to 18 months destruction of any of these homes, and if they deemed them historically significant, that would also slow, but not necessarily stop, development of those properties into multifamily housing. And that might be worth keeping in mind as well. Did you have something, Aniri?
No, I just double check with our MBTA and the state that yes, if your property is in historical district, you still need a local historic commission view.
But is a
approval.
historic district different from a home deemed historical by the historic commission? I think those are two different things.
I mean,
I think so.
that I can check.
Okay.
That I'm not aware.
And again, it may be something that is immaterial to us, Zach, because we're looking to find a solution anyway. I see Elise with a hand up. I'm going to come to you in a moment, Elise. It's good to have you here with us, Elise. It may be immaterial because we got to find a solution anyway. But I would just like us to be able to answer questions when they come up, and that may be one that comes up. Let me go to Elise. Go ahead.
Hi, Elise Mihailowski, 19 Walcott Street. I can tell you At least the strip of Walcott Street between A and B Street is not a historical area because my house was built in 2001.
Okay.
And before it was just an empty lot.
Which property is yours, Elise?
19. So the little yellow rectangle on A Street, it's the one just, I guess, north.
Right here?
Yeah, that one. Oh, wow. My house doesn't look like that anymore, but
It may be that some of the information is as wrong as the measurements on this property. So that's interesting. When I clicked, they were all older. I'm looking for the date of this house. Anyway, oh wait, no, look, here it says 2002, but your house.
2002. Okay.
So that may have been one of the ones where I stopped clicking.
Yeah. So I just wanted to comment that another thing is I know what you were saying about the historical commission. There's a house on B Street and I'm not sure when it was purchased, but I know it was purchased and then there was a waiting period. And I know I don't know if it was a way around it or what, but they basically kept the whole front of the house and then gutted the back part and then rebuilt the entire house and just kept sort of like the front, I don't know, skeleton of it. But it's a brand new house. If you were to drive down B Street, you can tell which one it is. And I mean, I'm not complaining. It's a beautiful house, but there are ways around the rules and people find them. So I just wanted to add that in.
Thank you. I agree. In my experience with the Historical Commission, I heard plenty of stories like that. Aneri, were you able to get find a different answer if it's not a historical district?
Yeah, I will check with.
Should we just table that for later?
Yeah, I will check and do my due
Great.
diligence.
Matthew.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to confirm that if you go north of Elisa's house, they're all 1925 or older. Hers is the oddball on that list. So
this is an older one again. Okay. Again, I don't know how far to scroll before I find the date again, but okay. But it's unclear whether the age of the house is going to slow development or not yet, and we'll see if we can get an answer to that. Sarah, I think welcome back, right? You're our friend from Clapham Street.
Yep, that's me.
I'm glad you're back, Sarah.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. So Sarah Brophy, I'm at 9 Claflin Street, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our recent experience with the Historical Commission with about 3 Claflin Street. So that is a historic property, historical property that the developer for that lot wanted to demolish the building. Went in, was deemed historical, went back, and they decided that they wanted that to be preferably preserved ultimately. So they have maintained the structure, and this is probably speaking a little bit to what Elise has experienced on the house on B Street. It's preferably preserved is what it was deemed. And they had the ability to kind of tear down one portion of that house, kind of an addition that was made on, but to keep the structure itself holistically. But I agree that probably is exactly the same thing that happened with the property that Elise mentioned for B Street.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much. Or again, for whichever house it is over here, if you wait 18 months, you can knock the whole thing down and you don't.
Correct.
Even so, it would be nice to get some clarification whether MBTA means you don't even have to go to the Historical Commission or not. So we can wait on that. I think generally I'm in agreement with Aneri's recommendation that we keep this section in our MBTA map. I think it makes it so we're going to hit our 50% even easier. We don't have to worry about stuff here. But I am curious if any committee members, if I'm reading the regs right, have concern that we've included a parcel that right now is commercial, but under MBTA could become solely residential multifamily. Is that a worry for anybody? Worry enough that you want to talk about that part of the map? I'll just wait a little bit, see if people are looking to put a hand up or get off of pause. Aniri's hand is up.
So, sorry, not on this point, but I just want to add on the historic commission thing.
Yep.
So I just check on our state website, and it's mentioned that if your property is in historic or if your house is historic, you still need to go through historic commission.
Okay.
So all the local other boards, if it's required, you need approval from them. If
Okay.
even if you can do multifamily by right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And all the other boards include Conservation Commission, and if you don't have the proper setbacks, ZBA and all of that stuff.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
And as we pointed out, the Historical Commission has some teeth, but they're not super, super sharp. So back in the CBS, no one has any hesitation, just leave it the way it is and we'll see what happens. I'm not pushing for a change. I just thought it'd be worth considering. Okay, I see nothing. Is there anybody who likes a plan? Can we focus only on Plan D and E? I do know from the most recent planning board meeting, Matthew, that there was some voice on the planning board or voices that really wanted us to consider Carbonis again. Would you like Matthew to share some of that and then what your reactions were?
Do you want me to share, or are you asking if the board wants me to share?
I'm asking you if you would
Yeah, I can
get
share
us up
what
to
the
speed
comment
if
was.
people didn't watch that part of the meeting.
Yeah, there
Because
was.
after all, we are forwarding to the planning board, and so.
Yep. Yeah, so there was a suggestion to look at Carbonis again, because I think Ted is just stocked up on Alka-Seltzer, and the idea, the thought was that, and I don't know if this is accurate, was that the towns or some agency was acquiring the land, and I don't know what state that's in, to hook up to the MWRA at that point. With the idea that wouldn't then be developable. I was just trying to skim through what actually the impact of that would be, because my understanding was if it's owned by the town or is otherwise non-developable, it wouldn't count. But I don't know exactly how that impacts the overall calculation, if it's excluded from the 50% or just can't be used for unit development. So I'd defer to Aniri if she knows the model better, if that's even a feasible approach.
So so I had a little discussion like in general with town manager. Elaine, and she meant that probably is acquiring, then you cannot count or do anything. I mean, you can convert that property into MBTA zoning, but you cannot build, and it will exclude from the calculation. So I think currently including Carbonis property seems little off track.
Yeah, okay.
So we are not in any agreement or anything, but town is planning to buy that, or there's some discussion going on.
Okay.
For wastewater, or exactly, I don't know, but something
Right.
with that.
So
So-
the two options are, it could either derail the current negotiations, or it would be right back here because it would be invalid once we bought it and we'd
Right.
have to come
Yeah.
back.
As a reminder to the committee and anyone else watching, what the state needs to see is the right amount of acreage that is buildable. So if we took just randomly this lot, but 3/4 of it was a swamp, we don't get credit for that full acreage. We get credit only for the bits that are buildable. So if we were to include a section of land that is utterly unbuildable, we get no credit for adding that. We've accomplished nothing. I think that's what we're hearing with Carbonis. I think that our committee was in agreement. We were not interested in looking at Carbonis again, but since it came up to the planning board, I thought it would be worth airing out again. With that said, for the committee sitting here, is it in your minds down to Plan D or E, or do we still need to look at A, B, or C? A was the original, I think. B is the approved right now, which is out of it's against the rules. C included this side of the street and maybe these houses, but this side of the street. D is this whole strip, if you can see my cursor on A Street, and then our bridge, as I'm calling it. E would be a bridge that is just here and up. Are we as a committee feeling like it's D or E?
Yes.
Is there anyone pushing for anything besides those two? Okay. With that, I'll ask anybody in the public, do you have thoughts? Because I do appreciate your coming and I want you to be able to offer thoughts if you have D versus E thoughts.
Can we actually have Aneri share her screen so we can see those mapped out with the color blocks between the
Sure,
between
of
D and E?
course.
That would-
I guess I have to get off, so let me stop.
yeah, that would help me as just being a visual person.
Of course, no, that'll be fine. I put mine up so that I could point better and also kind of single out the individual properties.
Yeah, no, it made sense. It made sense for that portion of the discussion without a doubt.
Awesome.
And actually, I really like that map.
It's available on the town website.
Okay.
So on the left is D, on the right is E. And by the way, I asked Aneri about the yellow spot over there on D. It's nothing. Ignore the yellow spot.
Yeah.
And it's not there. It signifies nothing.
Okay. That's a good question because I was going to ask that question.
No, I was drawing the parcels and somehow I don't know what happened. It got selected by itself, and if I delete, it was like deleting everything. So I was like, let me just keep that.
Yeah.
So
So really, the only difference between these two plans are those additional like 2 or 3 properties on that corner of including those houses on A Street, correct?
That
Yep,
is
that's
the only difference between those two plans is those 3 properties. Those 3 properties, again, were square footage of 52 to 6,800 square feet, 64 to 8,300 square feet. Those are in my estimate range because I didn't do the math to really break down the quadrilateral. And then the last one, the one closest to Walcott, 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. So those are pretty sizable properties that by themselves would be developable.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm in alignment with either D or E. I guess I would prefer E on some level just because those properties are larger on A to be developed, but those are also on Cedar Street in some form or fashion. But I think what's the minimal viable approach, and to me that would be option E.
Great. We got other hands up.
Yep.
Sravana.
Hi,
Sravan, sorry, the A gets thrown in there in your name. I'm sorry, Sravan.
that's my bad. So I would like some clarification. So you said the CVS property, if we put it into this MBTA zoning and if it gets approved, any further development on this on that property, if CVS were to leave, could only be residential because it's. Is that right?
No. So it is already approved. What you see as purple on the 2 maps in front of you are what our current zoning is. And the CVS property is included. Aneri, could you just highlight one of the 2 CVS properties right there? So it's already included. What I learned or relearned today is currently in downtown business, and that area is also zoned downtown business. By right, a developer can put a mixed use development, commercial on the ground floor, residential on 2nd and 3rd floor. Under the MBTA Communities Act, a developer by right does not have to have any commercial. So it doesn't mean if CVS were to leave, it doesn't mean that has to become residential. It could stay completely commercial. It's up to the landlord and the landowner to decide. But it could become purely residential under the MBTA regulations. Does that clarify?
Yes, it does. And did you say that we have the ability to exclude the CVS property and still meet the total size requirement? No. Okay.
I think that would be really, really hard. And it would certainly mean including those other 3 properties along A Street. But that CVS property is a big chunk of acreage. and it would require a whole lot of other shifts.
Right, right. Because I was just learning about this town, how we cannot predict some things in the future, but you can definitely get blamed if somebody puts in a big residential multi-family thing on CBS, and they're going to be like, "Oh, this was because of the zoning thing that was done," right?
The good or the bad news is that's probably true of every town, not just Hopkinton. Elise?
I just have a question, and I apologize for not knowing the background of all your discussions for these maps, but is there a reason why in D you chose that side of the street of A Street versus the other side of A Street? Because the corner lot that's on Cedar Street, that's opposite what's highlighted now, is already being developed into 4 units. So it's already kind of in the spirit of MBTA.
So that's the one I was referencing when I said I didn't know which lot it was, I guess. It's
Okay.
at the corner of A and Cedar.
Yes, it's directly across from the red. Yep, that one.
I don't think there was any rationale. In fact, last week when I was initially talking about, and I'll keep using air quotes, building a bridge, I was not including those properties. But as Aniri was playing with different models, they got included. I don't know, Aniri, if you had thought, I assume it was because it felt like it connected to what was already zoned more cleanly than if you went across the street.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. So, like adding those parcels, the main purpose is to like bridge the gap between two zone, two district, and make it as a one. So if like there is an option, you can convert here. I mean, take A Street parcel and B Street parcel and make it as a one, but that will still not going to meet the contingence requirement, because the only option for us is to like make downtown and Walcott Street combine and make a one district. So you can include like that parcel which is in the business district, the one you're talking about, but then you need to include these two as well to make it look like it's like combined joint district. Otherwise,
I think what Elise
That's
was
what I was
asking.
saying.
Right. I think
yeah.
what Elise was asking is why do the south side of A Street? Why not do the north side instead?
but then it
Then
will
we
be
have a
joined as a
weird-
joint, not a weird, but it will not join to the downtown district if we don't take this side of A Street and just include the other one.
Right. But I think if we still have all the properties along Walcott and then turn left on the north side of A Street,
Then you need to
but then
do
we
like,
have 3 properties that somehow
That's
got missed in the zoning.
missed,
And I can't
yeah.
imagine that would look good.
yeah.
Does that answer your question, Elise?
Sort of. Is there a rule that there can't be a street in between?
No.
Okay, because I mean, from what I'm seeing, it could connect. I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It looks like it could connect across Cedar Street if you did the north side of the street, and then it would go up and connect. I mean, I have nothing against the way it is now. I'm just curious.
So
Go ahead, Aniri, please.
yes, sorry to interrupt. So you can add this 3 as well from A Street and make it as a one, like from this side to where is it right now, and include this side of A Street as well, because otherwise it will be like you are adding here and you left 3 parcels.
So leaving those
business
3
district.
parcels unzoned would look unappealing to the
Yeah, yeah. There are chances. You don't know what goes
Right.
in state,
right.
but yeah, that's my.
Is that good,
But
Elise?
Yes, that's fine for me. I'm also just wondering if they would be upset with leaving off the south side of A Street. Wouldn't they also be upset with us leaving off the larger parcel on the east side and Claflin Street?
I think if I'm understanding your question, if you color in red the west side of Walcott the way it is,
Mhm.
and then move the red shading on the south side of A and move it into the pink on the north side of A,
Mhm.
then we have a funny island of pink surrounded by zoned area. And that funny island of non-MBTA zoned area could cause a hiccup in the State House.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Does that make sense? I'm
Yes,
trying
yes,
to,
yes, it makes sense.
since we don't have a paper map in front of us that we can point to, I'm trying to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
No, no, it makes sense. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure. Matthew?
Thanks. I mean, just following on that, although I had a separate point. Like if we got rid of one option along what Elise was saying, right, is we get rid of the anything bordering A Street there, and instead just connect along B Street, and we don't have an island. We just have a different shaped gerrymandering. But if we're looking at D&E, which was my original point, right, the only thing we're really talking about here, and with Elise's other proposals, right, is whether we're doing that minimal strip or if we've got something that's connecting it back laterally or westerly, right? So that's really what we're talking about, is whether we want just that minimal approach or if we want something that fills in the block. Is that
Right,
what we're
I
mostly
think
debating?
so. I think we're a little bit guessing at what the state will approve, but it sounds like we do have a little more time than I feared, and Aneri can run a map by some folks at the state. It won't be the same thorough look we had for the original map that got voted down at town meeting, but we can get some feedback. I think the question mostly that we're wrestling with is if we do E, or even if we do E and eliminate the two properties that don't even touch Walcott, does that look like too thin a connection to be accepted as a one area? If we expand along A to those three properties, that might be appetizing to a developer. It's an even stronger bridge, but it's also a bigger, I think, a bigger enticement to developers, which is one of our concerns, I think. I see your hand, Aneri, but hang on. Matthew, does that address what you were asking?
Yeah, no, it does. I just want to make sure that like these aren't we're not really looking at two completely different plans here. It's really what is it that we're focusing on?
Yeah, I think so. And really the difference between these two plans is those three parcels that I mentioned a couple times.
Yeah.
Aneri?
Just my thought after Matthew and Il's point. If committee wants, we still can add the other three from other side of A Street parcel, which is in business district, which are like two looks like a more than 5,000 square feet in a size, and make it look like connecting from here to here and then going as a bridge, and we can include those. So we have, or we can say that we include business district parcels and we did not touch the residential A
Well, we
zoning
have to
district
touch the
parcels.
residential A a bit, right? We have to.
Yeah, like couple of parcels
Right.
from
Right.
after the B Street, but that is one more option. I mean,
Matthew, did your hand pop up again, or is that a stay?
Yeah, and just to spur discussion, like, should we just focus on whether we like E or whether we think that's too thin, right? That's really the question, and maybe the
That's
thing that we should
pretty
decide
much
first.
where we are right now. Is do we like E because it offers a less juicy map to developers? Do we like D because it feels safer for the state to approve? I think that's where we are right now. And there are a couple questions, I think that, although we have the historical commission question answered, so actually that one's done. Sarah, I'm happy to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I've got a question actually. I know this plan needs to be approved by, town meeting, whatever we discuss here today. Does this have to get approved by the state before the town meeting or after the town meeting?
It would be after town meeting. So
Okay.
there's that. I mean, that was a little bit what we ran into last time. We approved what we thought was going to be okay.
Okay.
And then the state took a look and said,
And said not enough.
And some of the reason that happened is we had to rush a map through and we couldn't have the very thorough vetting we got the first time we took a bite of this apple.
Right. So I guess to knowing that answer, I guess I wonder, since you need to get the town to approve first, which is going to be more, more desirable for the town to approve, that also might still also meet the state needs.
Right.
That's kind of where my head's at ultimately.
Yeah.
And I don't know which one, the town, to me, we're talking about, basically, the addition of 3 properties or not.
Right. I'm looking at our committee members. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken up that has some thoughts that they want to share? Let me get us back to where I think we are. We're all okay. Well, I'm circling the map, but you can't see my cursor. We're all okay with every property that's already been zoned, including the CVS. I think that we're all fine with that. We're down to, do we want to propose to the planning board Plan E? I keep using my cursor, but I keep forgetting you can't see it. Plan E, which is the narrower bridge over to Walcott Valley. Or do we want to push to the planning board D, which includes 3 more properties? Or do we want to do D version 2 and have the other side of A Street, which I think would look funny if we excluded those 3. But Elise is right. One of those 3 properties on the other side of A is already effectively been MBTA communitied, if you will.
I know you asked the committee, but it makes me wonder about that property. Do you just expand and include an option F that does include those other 3 properties on the other side of A Street? To make a bigger bridge, if that property on A and Cedar is already part of that, do you do all of that? I know there was another property on that street that you were concerned about, though, Ted.
Right. The other side of A, so what we learned from Elise, thank you. So that would go to the west one more, please, Aniri. To the corner of A Street, the northern corner of A Street and Cedar. Bingo, right there. So that's the one that has already been leveled and they're rebuilding as a 4 apartment place. The one to the right of it looks like it's over 5,000 square feet. So that would be a developable property. Oh boy.
So Ted, 0.115 acres is about 5,000 square feet, if it helps, since that was the acreage there.
Oh, good. I can't do the acreage at all. I was looking at the street frontage times the depth. And then the next one is clearly, so all 3 of those properties on the north side, now one of them has already been developed, but the other 2 would be by themselves without looking at setbacks and stuff, developable. My own inclination, if we can try to move this along, is to have the narrower bridge and exclude the properties that right now, oh boy. Okay. So that would be even more land. And of those, we have now 6 properties that are not along Wall Street, all of which are developable, although one has already been developed. I would right now, and I think that I would say, let's include the 2 properties that are closest to Wall Street, but are not on Wall Street or Walcott Street. Yes, keep those on because it does make the map look more normal and less gerrymandered. But I would propose then Plan E to the planning board. I think that we've done a lot of discussions. I don't think we need to add more properties to get us to the 50% at all, as long as we're keeping CVS, and I'm in favor of keeping CVS. And then we can leave it up to the planning board to discuss. And then Erie can check with the state, and instead of reporting back to us, report to the planning board what the state says about that plan. How does Zach feel about that proposal? I saw some drifting thumbs up go by my screen. And as our, although we have Elise here as well, but Matthew, as our planning board rep, does that feel like the kind of thing that the planning board can work with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the minimal change is going to be easiest to sell. I don't know if you're going to be up there talking again, Ted, or if you're going to be sick that day. We need your votes.
Got a little sniffle.
Yeah, we'll get you a mask. No, I think I'm curious if Elise has commentary as well, but I think E is going to be the easiest to sell here. I think
The planning board and the town?
I think to both. Yeah, I think whatever is going to be easiest sell to the town, or seems like the easiest sell to the town, is going to be the easiest sell to the planning board. Something that's minor increment, as minor as possible, incremental to what we currently have, and has a clear explanation for why we're doing it, and just that we missed this last time versus any changes by the state, because I know that was something that people had a lot of fear about, that this has always been there. We just kind of missed it, and we didn't have time to run it by the full validation process.
Yep. Elise, I know you're not a Zach member. You're always welcome back as far as I'm concerned, but you are a planning board member. Do you concur?
Yeah, the feedback that we pretty much got was that people don't want more development. So I think if we put the minimum change to the current plan, which would be option E, I think, like what Matthew said, it would be the easiest to sell at town meeting. And I think it would have the most minimal impact in the short term, at least.
Okay. Matthew.
Just to comment on the one aspect of that is that in the special town meeting, and I think actually at the end of one of the budget commentaries, there was concern about the spurts of growth being uneven. And as we mentioned, I think last time we met, the potential declining class sizes, as you know, we had a huge increase as we did a lot of building, and then it's slowed down. And so I think there's mixed opinion on growth, and one of the things we need to pay attention to is just how do we keep it smooth and not generate a whole bunch at once. I think that's what we've been doing with these plans, and I don't think this is likely to upset that. Even if CVS were to be redeveloped, the rest of this, I don't think will spread to everything being redeveloped at once, for instance.
I think I agree. This is not a counterpoint, but I will remind that in Plan E, according to my measurements, 2 of the lots have the minimum square footage. Again, I don't know about frontage and stuff, but the size that can be put there versus town and school stress and stuff would be pretty minimal. It could feel big to the neighborhood. I don't want to discount that. But as far as stress on town resources, it would be fairly minimal, even if those 2 got developed quickly. And really, I don't know what other options we have. Okay, so I guess let me just click through, make sure I'm not missing a hand anywhere. I don't think I am. I'm wondering if I could get, we haven't done this for a while, a motion to present Plan E to the planning board for our solution to our current MBTA shortcomings. If I could get a motion in a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote. Was that a so moved? And a second?
I'll second.
Great. Is there any more discussion before we vote? I'm looking for my attendance. I see no more discussion. All right, let's have a roll call vote. Do we pass along our recommendation of Plan E, as we're calling it? Matthew?
Yes.
Ron? You're cutting out, but I think you said yes. Okay. Sravan,
Yes.
Khwaja,
Yes.
yes. And Ted Barker Hook is also a yes. That is a unanimous.
Ted, Jacqueline also signed on.
Oh, Jacqueline, I didn't see you here. Jacqueline, we need to get your vote. Thank you, Matthew. Jacqueline, are you there? One more try, Jacqueline.
Sorry, I was looking for the mute button. Yes, I'm here. And yes,
And your vote is
For-
a yes?
yes, for proposal E.
For E. All right, Aniri, that is a 6-0 vote to pass along to planning board. And then I think, again, just to recap, Aniri, the planning board would probably be grateful if you could run that plan by whomever it is at the state that could give us some feedback about whether that bridge is going to be successful. If
Yes.
not, I would imagine that the discussion would stay at the planning board level about what you do with A Street, that it would not come back to us, because I don't think there'd be enough time for that. But that's up to the chair of the planning board, I think, not me. With that, I think that we are done with our work for 2026. Do you guys want to hold off? We certainly have plenty more on our agenda. And if you watch the last planning board meeting, suddenly ideas were flowing like out of Mount Etna for stuff for us to work on. But should we hesitate on booking our next meeting? I don't see anyone dying to book it right now. Okay, so long as those who are here, we'll promise to look at your email and respond when Aniri sends out proposals for our next ZAC meeting date. As long as that's true, then I would love a motion and a second to adjourn for the night.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, one more roll call vote. Before we vote, I want to thank members of the public who came along and helped us out with this discussion. You're always welcome at a ZAC meeting. All right, motion to adjourn and a second is out there. Matthew,
Yes.
Ron,
Yeah.
Sravan,
Yes.
Khwaja,
Yes.
Jacqueline,
Yes.
and Ted Barker Hook is a yes, making it unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for your work. I encourage you to watch the planning board meetings. Matthew, if you feel the need for me to attend planning board, please let me know. I can probably find a way to make that work, but I honestly have faith that you've been listening to our discussions and can represent our committee pretty well.
With Aniri's maps, I'm sure we'll be fine.
Great. I wish
I will,
everyone wonderful holidays and a happy new year. We'll see you in 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Bye, Mary
holidays.
Ellen.
Thank you.
Take care.